Hey, Steve.
Hey, you guys are being way too nice. And, geez, the guy that called in and said Roger Waters is evil. I saw the show at the World over the summer, and his last song was about Bosnia and the situation there and everything. And the guy's done a lot of work to help out in different situations.
Yeah, no, I think he didn't mean evil as much as he meant harsh.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Waters is a tough guy.
He does not suffer fools gladly.
No, he's a tough interview.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a tough to talk to. He'll cut you right off the knees. You know, he's tough in his personal appearances. He's tough. I mean, he's just a tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what he does best, is the biting satire.
Yeah.
And I think that caller had originally started by talking about animals, which of course is just a devastating satire of the kind of clueless automatons that run much of the universe.
Yeah.
And Waters has become increasingly bitter and cynical as he's gone on. It's interesting that the one point in his lyrics all the way through, up through the wall, you know, where he really starts to show a heart is when he's talking about this lapsed mate of his and what became of him.
And where a lot of the cynicism starts to creep in is when, as Pink Floyd got bigger, a lot of the songs germinated from the idea that this music business was such an evil thing, and what it was doing, you know, and what it was doing to his own band. I mean, a lot of the alienation he was feeling, you know, filtering through the idea of Syd Barrett falling apart, was that his own band was sort of falling apart in his eyes.
You know,
as well.
I mean, "Wish You Were Here," which both of us, I think, agree is their best album, right? I mean, Dark Side gets all the hype, but "Wish You Were Here" is the real incredible record. I mean, there's two kinds of songs on there. There's the Syd songs, "We Miss You," "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," and "Wish You Were Here," and then there's the music industry sucks songs.
"Welcome to the Machine."
"Welcome to the Machine." Have a cigar. Come in here, dear boy. Have a cigar. You're going to go far. You know,
right.
What bitter. You know, this is a band that's making millions of dollars off this industry, but hates
biting the hand that feeds them. You know, years before Elvis Costello was singing about it, they were biting the hand that feed them.
Pink Floyd had a lot more in common with the punks than Johnny Rotten knew.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, there's this element of whining about the difficulties of being a rock star, you know, and so I think, you know, which is never a pretty thing. I mean, nobody wants to hear a rock star complain about how hard it is to be a rock star. So I think that by taking the onus off of themselves and putting it on Syd, look how hard it is to be a rock star. It drove this poor SOB insane. You know, it was like they could complain about all the things they hated without seeming, you know, unduly whiny themselves.
Right.
Psychiatrically, like, projecting.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, there's this tradition in romantic literature of the lunatic as truth sayer. You know, it's there in Dostoevsky. It's there in, you know, over and over and over again through romantic literature. You see the village idiot or the child or the naive person or the retarded person or the deranged drunk as the guy who delivers truth. And so, you know, we have this romantic myth of Barrett as the guy who burned out. He didn't fade away, you know, and he was, you know, obviously losing his marbles, but in there was this great truth. And a lot of that is just hooey, you know. I mean, let's face it, whatever happened to the guy, he left some songs that are great, he left other songs that are haunting, as we were talking about before, and he, you know, self-destructed, which is not a pretty thing for anybody to do, whether it's Kurt Cobain or Syd Barrett. And to romanticize that and to aspire towards that is kind of ugly. So in some ways, the Floyd have been guilty of adding to that myth.
Well, I don't think they were romanticizing it, though. You know?
I don't know.
I mean, romanticizing it in the darkest possible sense of that term.
Shine on, you crazy diamond. It's not like, you know.
Yeah, but they were also saying that the guy's lost forever. They've lost him. It's like
telling
a
him
death.
To shine on.
It's like a death, and it's like you're telling a dead relative to shine on. You know, I think that's the way I look at it. It's a very dark. It's like a funeral album.
But we always speak well of the dead. You know what I mean? I don't know. I was trying to get to that with that Mason interview, and I mean, there's an ambivalence there. You know, I mean, what would they have had to write about if they didn't? You know, he was talking about Dark Side.
Their Rolls Royces, yeah.
You know, not that radio ever needs to play Dark Side of the Moon again, but maybe we ought to get to it. Clearly, this is a concept album about.
Thanks for the call, by the way, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. The forces in life that tend to push you over the edge.
Yep.
You know, and there's money, and there's time, and there's the rat race, you know.
And the air that you breathe.
On the run. and it all leads to this kind of giant meltdown of brain damage and eclipse, which is, you know, quite clearly part of it about Syd. You know, the lunatic is on the grass.
Right.
The lunatic is on the grass. And, you know, I mean, they're trying to say, I think, in this record, that any of us could lose it. You know, at any given time by just the pressures of everyday life.
One of the reasons I think it was so the pinnacle in a lot of ways for Floyd was the fact that Waters, Wright, and Gilmour were all collaborating. They were all on equal footing to a large extent on this record. Waters was pretty much writing the lyrics, but musically, huge contributions from every band member. It was definitely a true collaborative process.
There's footage in my favorite Pink Floyd movie, Live at Pompeii. The band pulls into this Roman arena, sets up in the middle, and plays a concert of that middle period stuff, which is an amazing record. But it's intercut with footage of them recording Dark Side of the Moon at Abbey Road. And you see just the kind of sonic experimentalism, Wright playing around with the synthesizer and Gilmour doing some guitar stuff. And this was a band. And the R&B, interesting enough, comes back to the fore on this record.
Yeah, Money. It's the funkiest thing they've ever done.
It's a very soulful record, and the black backing vocals and the saxophone.
Yep.
There's a lot of R&B on this record with the cosmic stuff.
But would you agree that one of the reasons that Dark Side and Wish You Were Here, the subsequent album, were the high points artistically for the band was because of the chemistry?
Absolutely.
Or was it because...
No, absolutely.
No,
they were a band. And Rick Wright was a great coloring accompanist. As a keyboardist, he had those sounds which you just instantly hear those sounds, you say, oh, that's Pink Floyd. And Mason was a really great drummer in that, well, he wasn't technically proficient. I called him ham-handed, and I meant that as a compliment. Big, I always picture this guy like hitting drums with cinder blocks.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful because while the rest of the band's music is so airy, he provides that grounding.
Right.
Gilmour, of course, incredibly fluid guitarist.
Probably the best musician in the group.
Those riffs just stick in your head.
Yeah.
Animals, the record we're not going to play, but the Dogs, the way that guitar just cuts through is amazing.
And I think what happened, especially about the time of the Wall, and I know I'm going to get strung up for this, I really think they lost it. They started losing it because
they stopped being a band.
Waters took over so much of the songwriting role in that record. If you look at the credits on that record, it's almost entirely a Roger Waters record. You look at the songs that Gilmour is co-credited on; those are the best songs on the record.
No, it's true. And Wright was being pushed out. He had a cocaine problem. He was being edged out of the band. A lot of stuff is done to loops instead of Mason's drums, and they start to suffer for that.
Right.
It still has a fond spot in all of our Floyd fans' hearts because it's such a great conceptual record. But it really is the end of the band.
Right. Well, let's play a Dark Side cut.
Yeah, this is Brain Damage, which is obviously again, a couple of years after If, Waters very much has Syd on his mind.